So welcome everyone. Today we've got a very interesting guest. Susan Lubell is principal consultant of Steppe Consulting, and we've had quite a bit of engagement with Susan that it's just been so fascinating. We had to have her as a guest, and you will see why in just a minute. But first, we like to say thank you to all of our patron members, Jacob, Smantec, Onuma, ABS Quality Evaluations, and CGI, and all of our organizational members. And please reach out to me if you think you visit three and enjoy some of our other membership benefits. So been a lot going on, but let's get straight into the conversation with Susan. Susan, how you doing? Uh, it's been good knowing you for a while through PMAC and the Global Forum and our connections to Peter Kohler and Sally Nugent over in Australia. You're located in Canada. Where in Canada?
I'm in Calgary.
You're in Calgary. And I don't know if you can actually answer this the way we always do because you've got such a deep background in asset management, but how did you get where you're at right now in your asset management journey?
Um, I think one of the things is that, much like from many of your listeners, I graduated as an engineer. There were no jobs in the area where I grew up, and I moved north. And I had an awesome job up there, in the oil sands working. But then, you get into it a little bit and you realize I don't want to calculate everything and be woken up in the middle of the night because something went off spec all the time.
Uh-huh.
So it's time to do something different with my career. So I went and did my MBA, and that sort of led me into capital project management. And then I started shifting over, and I ended up in a lot of operational excellence teams, and then maintenance and reliability teams doing things like failure analysis and a lot more facilitation of how do we get better at getting better. And I think that to a large extent, I've been doing quote unquote asset management my whole career. We just never called it asset management. I think of it as the business side, how to deliver value from an organization with that foundational root in all the different disciplines and how you work together.
Yeah, the engineering degree with the master's in business administration, that's a perfect combination for this. So I said it wrong. It's not Steep Consulting, it's Step
Yeah.
Consulting. How did you come up with the logo? What's the story behind the
Okay, so you're diving into some of my personal stuff. My husband is a paleontologist, and this is our company. And so that is a mammoth that was on the steps. So we have the industrial gears, but the mammoth for the paleontology. So
that's where the
there's where
oil's
step
coming from?
consulting comes from.
Okay, great. Um, and what has evolved in the 17 years since you've started your consulting business?
Um, well, my career is actually a lot longer than 17 years. I know there's not a single gray hair. However, the reality is I've been working in industry for over 30 years. And I think as things evolved, what we've really realized, it's not just about fix it when it breaks. It's about getting better at how we deliver value from organizations. And my career has had a number of progressive employee roles. So I spent the first 25 years of my career in really progressive employee roles, moving all the way up through the organizations in different departments and getting a broad level of expertise. And then I started to get involved with some of the industry professional associations. So that also started to increase my awareness of what was happening and being able to contribute back. I've been consulting almost solely for the last 10 years or so, but it all builds on that expertise and that fundamentals that I've gained across a number of organizations within the resource sector. So oil and gas, mining, that sort of thing.
And you've given back to associations and nonprofits. So I think it's important for people to understand this about you. Can you tell us a little bit about that aspect of your career?
Yeah, for sure. So I think I've started off by getting involved with PMAC, which is the Asset Management Association of Canada. And that's really been over the last probably about 20 years. I served over 10 years on the board of directors. I was president for 4.5 years of that. And because of that, and I'm currently the chair of the competency committee. So I've got a lot of involvement and I continue to stay involved with PMAC and supporting that. Because of that, I also managed to work into a way that I've been able to contribute to the Global Forum on Maintenance and Asset Management. PMAC's an active member of this. So I was on the steering committee for that recently published GFMAM Asset Management Landscape, the third edition. There's some other current projects, documents, those sorts of things, publications that I'm currently contributing to on behalf of PMAC. I would encourage your listeners, they're all free to download, gfmam.org. They go to the publications tab and they're free to download. You do have to put in, I think it's what country in an email address maybe, but go and download them. There's some excellent content there that can help people out. I was also named as the PMAC representative to the World Partners in Asset Management. And so I served on the board with the World Partners. And I'm just ending my second, I'm near the end of my second term as the chair of the World Partners. And this is 100% focused on making sure that we have recognition for competency in asset management and that it's transportable and transferable between different countries, companies, different roles and associations. And I think that's a key part of it, different industry sectors. So as world partners, I've been actively involved with the development of the Global Competency Certification Scheme. So we call it the GCS for short. And all of those certifications, including the CAMA, the Certified Asset Management Assessor. And there's a lot of work that goes into that, but I find it super energizing working with others across the world who are also keen to give that back to the members of their societies. So, I get the phone call from somebody in PMAC that says, I work for company X in, you know, this city in Canada, and my head office is located in this other country. And HR is asking me, what on earth is my PMAC certification equivalent to? Because I want a promotion or I want to move countries. And what do we do with that? And so the ability to align the PMAC certifications with this global certification scheme is giving all of those individuals the opportunity to advance their career, to be able to move between them, and to have a sort of a career path within asset management. So I think that to me is very fulfilling. We've got countries or regions around the world. In fact, I was on a call last night with representatives. So, it's not just Canada, it's Canada, Australia, South Africa, Brazil, the rest of South America, Japan, Gulf states, European Union, New Zealand, Morocco, IPUA. So we've got all these different groups that are working with us together to try to provide back to our membership a way to get their skills recognized and their competencies.
So one of the things that you said beforehand that I'm trying to figure out how to ask the question to get you to say again is how much the um, profession has evolved. And I think what you just described demonstrates that.
I, yeah, I think that the profession and the professional field of asset management has evolved. It used to be an offshoot of, oh, well, that's kind of maintenance, or maybe that's reliability. But I think there's a real recognition that we need all these different teams coming together. So I love that definition of asset management as the coordinated efforts of the organization to deliver value from assets. Well, how do you get coordinated efforts? It's getting your capital project team, your long range planning team, your operations, maintenance, reliability, working with supply management and HR, your reclamation teams, all of those different groups working together. And I bet I forgot somebody and they'll feel slighted. But if we can work together, but I think that's where it's evolved. Most of us have been, let's call it doing asset management to a certain extent, but it's this idea that really, if we work collaboratively and cooperatively, we can deliver better value for our organizations, whether they're public sector or private sector. And I know that a lot of ALN's listeners tend to be in the public sector, but the same thing applies just as much in the private sector. We're not quite as likely to share all of the success stories, but that doesn't mean that they're not all happening.
Excellent. So what you were talking about in terms of the coordinated activities gets to a role you play a lot. Can you describe further some of the ways people approach you and maybe elaborate on that collaboration aspect that you help, the coordination that you help provide?
For sure. I mean, this cooperation, collaboration is such a critical success of both private and publicly traded companies. Particularly in my background's really in these asset intensive industry sectors. So a lot of energy production, that sort of thing, manufacturing. Um, for my step consulting business, most of my clients have had recent mergers and acquisitions, or so you're bringing together staff from previous smaller companies, or perhaps they had a bad audit, or they're growing organically and they're at that next level of regulatory reporting, compliance. They need some more formality. Or we're seeing a really market shift in the economy, wider economic market. There's all this uncertainty, risk, but there's also opportunity that goes with that. And most of my clients recognize they can't keep doing what they've been doing. So a typical call I get is, "Hey Sue, how are you doing? It's been a long time since we chatted. You still doing asset management? I need some help." Or I have no idea what asset management is, but my colleague or my boss or my direct report tells me I need it. And so when they call me and they say, "Hey, I need asset management consulting," my first questions back to them are usually something like, "Is this about improving asset management or are you asking me to fix your maintenance?" So, we're always trying to run that balance between, okay, what are you actually asking for here?
A lot of people don't know.
Well, particularly I find with the software, a lot of the software systems call themselves asset management systems. And so people get mixed up between, are you looking for maintenance work management software tools, or are you really looking at this integrated approach to good business?
So
Asset management is good business practices.
I liked what you said about getting better at being better.
Hmm.
So what are some of the things you do to slice through that confusion? Do you run uh, information gathering meetings or
Yeah.
gap analysis?
So absolutely. A large part I find often the senior leaders who call me, they know they need something, but they're not quite sure what. And a lot of this is about people change management and bringing people together to get value, right? We're back to coordinated efforts, my favorite quote out of that entire document there.
Yeah.
And so often I get called in to deliver, say, a training workshop, let's call it, to the team as they kick off their improvement initiatives. So I've kind of built sort of a 1-day asset management foundations course to get everybody on the same page. Our company execs, senior leaders recognize that not everyone in their company or their organization is coming from the same background or uses the same vocabulary. Um, if you're merging together a couple of smaller companies or even a big company that's just taken over somebody, everybody's got different words. Sometimes I call it wrenches and spanners. We're both trying to fix the same thing, but we have different words for it.
Hmm.
And so what we're really trying to do is bring that leadership together at the beginning of, say, a strategic workshop session as they're looking ahead to the next 3 to 5 years. or the level down is now trying to figure out how do I actually deal with that we need to bring everybody together. And these a training workshop, not just to listen to it with my coffee and ignore it and fall asleep, but these real active workshops kind of spur creative thought, and really look at how do we move forward to deliver value. We have that cost risk performance, right? And getting everyone on the same page. And so there's a lot of decision making that goes into these 3 to 5 year look ahead strategic sessions. So let's make sure that we understand how all the various teams coordinate with their work and collaborate to deliver value.
Yes.
I'm trying to keep track of the text chat at the same time. I'm very possible that I'm slightly, yeah.
I'm on the chats. I'll
Okay,
take the
so
chat and
I
turn them into a question for you, so you can just relax and answer
Okay, well, I'm
questions.
used to, well, I've been teaching the PMAC courses for 20 years online. And when you're the instructor in this long form education, you're doing the chat, you're doing the talking, you're asking the workshops. So
Yeah,
anyway, we can certainly manage it. But if I'm late on the text chat, you'll know what's happening.
yes. So, these workshops that you do, are any of them web-based or are they usually in
Yeah,
person?
both.
Both.
So I have definitely got the ability to do workshops. I've done 2 hour workshops, for sort of awareness. I do 4 hour workshops. I do a full day one. I went so far as to get my full day asset management course accredited by the World Partners so that it actually can meet an international certificate level. So if
Congratulations.
you get participation if you show up, but if you write the quiz, you can and pass, you have to pass, not just pretend.
Yeah.
Then you can get the international certificate. And to me, that's a big part of it, is working with teams, starting off with the same vocabulary. And then I usually work with a smaller group, say of their execs or otherwise, to build their roadmap for their asset management improvement. And then sometimes I work with the clients on the next step. Sometimes they want to go it alone and then they call back and say, okay, we're on step 2 and now we need some help to move forward. And so I, I think a lot of it is that, um, whether we're calling it asset management or not in the private sector, whether it's a maturity assessment, looking at policies, SAMs, processes, additional training, in the heavy industries and the asset intensive ones, many of my clients and many of my previous employers are highly familiar with management systems. That's how we manage our business. That's how we stay compliant to all the regulations. So it might not be called an asset management policy in the title block, but effectively, when you read the content, you're like, yeah, that's exactly what that is. Or no, it's not called SAMP on the cover page, but when I look in it and I look at all the content, you're going, you have a SAMP here, or you have a
Yes.
business process here, or that sort of thing. So it has the hallmarks of asset management all over it.
Now, without naming names, are there any stories that you can tell about specific improvements or um, benefits that one of your clients or a couple of your clients, or is there a consistent thing that you do with clients?
I think that one of the big things that for me as an independent is that I'm not trying to embed myself. So what I'm really trying to do is to work ahead and help people to advance what their organization is doing. And I think to me, I usually start with a couple of the key individuals. My MO is really about building capacity and capability in the internal employees. So let's figure out where we're starting from. And I would like to call it with organizational honesty. So It's not where you think you are. It's not where you would like to be. It's not your aspiration. But let's start and actually understand where we're starting from. And then where do you want to be? And what are the steps we might take to go there? But the reality is, you're not stopping your production to um, move forward. You need to find these quick wins that you can start with while you're building momentum on some of the larger initiatives. And I find a big part of my work is that integration from the C-suite right down to the front line. And so what is strategic to, or what is very tactical to the C-suite might be strategic for the VP or GM level. And what is very tactical for them may be completely strategic to your plant superintendents. And so we need to recognize, how are we going to integrate and align through all of these levels? And so what I am seeing is, a lot of times companies, many of my clients are growing and they've hit the next level of formality in the regulatory regime or something like that. And so, or larger mid-sized company has taken over a small one. How do you bring them into the fold? Make sure that you're on track for meeting all of your regulatory requirements, looking ahead to sustainability, to your governance, to your assurance, right? All of those foundational things, while at the same time continuing to produce your product, making sure that you're cost effective in your decision making, setting yourself up for the long-term future.
Excellent, excellent. And you would use the term asset intensive industries.
Yeah.
Will you define what you consider that?
Typically they're the 24/7, 365 oil and gas production, refining, mining operations, things like water, wastewater, right? Electrical generation and distribution. When we flip on our lights, even if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, it better flip that switch. The lights better come on. So those are fairly asset intensive. If we look at oil and gas, where I spent a lot of my early career, they are billions and billions with a B dollars to build, and not a lot of people, and we want to keep people out of harm's way, but we need a way to think about, how do we get more throughput with the same, with increasing safety standards, protecting the public at large, right? It's not just your health and safety of your workers on site, it's all the people and the public around you, right? Making sure you meet your environmental targets and goals, ideally exceed them, right? So you're looking ahead for, where are those going in the next 5 years? So you're set yourself up, because nothing happens quickly. And a lot of decision making and scenario analysis and risk, because those decisions you make up front at that design phase have a profound impact on the overall cost structure. And so we have capital projects for, 5, 10 years up front, but then this plant could be running for the next 50 or more years. And then we have to take into account our ARO, our asset retirement obligation, even before we put a shovel in the ground. We have to think about how we're remediating all of this. And so just by the very nature of these asset intensive industries, you are forced into thinking about the asset life cycle end to end before you even get started.
Mhm. That's interesting. So, your class work, you said you
Yeah.
teach. What levels is that at?
I'll stick my website into the text chat for everyone.
Oh my goodness, I have been entering things into the chat, but only sending
Oh,
it to me and you. So
okay. Well, here,
I'm
I
gonna,
think I got it out to everybody.
yeah, you got it
So
out to
the
everybody, but
other thing, so there's a couple of places that I teach. One is PMAC offers long form education through the colleges and universities. So I'm one of the instructors for that. And so certainly if you go to, and I'll put a plug in for it here, if I do this, pmac.org, and a lot of the education there for both the maintenance management professional and the asset management professional knowledge certifications. Those are all online. So there is a lot of opportunity there for people to take that. I teach a number of the courses in those certification programs. My own personal courses, I did a workshop on root cause analysis last week for a small to mid-size production company that's really looking to take that next step forward. They've got a very experienced, very highly qualified employees, but they're not all approaching it the same way. So I did an RCA course to help move them ahead. And then day 2 of it, we actually worked through one of their recent failures to try to apply what we've just learned. Putting it into practice is the easiest way to take a course and make it real and embed that learning in your knowledge. As I said,
Excellent.
I offer a number of different workshops and I often customize them to what the organization wants to see, whether it's an asset management, foundation, awareness level, maintenance management, those sorts of things. And so depending on your organization and how in depth you want to get versus where you think you are from where you're starting from, sometimes we start with the basics and make sure everyone's on track.
Well, let's talk, not now, but in the future about maybe the Asset Leadership Network promoting one of your web courses, and
Well, that sounds awesome.
figure out what the best approach to that would be.
I was just thinking one of the things that comes to mind is that asset management isn't just about the public sector. And I think we need to recognize that it's really a key foundation for successful, profitable companies as well. And we've all kind of been doing asset management to varying degrees for many, many years, but the formality of asset management as a field of expertise is more recently emerging. And I really think that training, workshops can really support getting all your people focused in this, and moving in the same direction. Um, it, Jim Collins quote, the good to great,
Yes.
it's about getting the right people on the bus. And to me, some of this is asset management knowledge and competency supports getting the right people in place and then moving forward on strategy and direction. And I think that that's a big part of this is recognizing where are you starting from, where are you trying to go, and how do you get there? And I'll come back to it. It's the coordinated efforts of the organization to deliver value. And how do you get people working together? Give a common goal, give a common direction, right? And then give people the tools and the understanding to know how their various departments work together, sort of like a gear mesh here, to be able
Mhm.
to deliver.
What you said made me think that a workshop that we offer together could maybe be for private companies only.
We could certainly look at doing something like that.
Yeah.
And I find sometimes my clients, I've offered a couple of public ones, but I actually find right now I get greater uptake within the private companies. They're all a bit shy about airing what's going on in their company in public. But if you can get 8 or 10 people together, it's enough to generate a good discussion without people getting lost in behind. So I don't I try to keep the workshop sort of in that 8 to 20 people range, just so that you've got enough conversation and everybody starts to work together. And that's really what this is all about. Deliver business value, have a common look at risk, look at performance, look at your opportunities, right? How much is
Mhm.
it going to cost? You're making very key strategic decisions on this, but let's all be heading in the same direction.
That's a wonderful way to wrap up. So thank you so much. And we've got a comment here um, about managing assets and asset management. So
Absolutely. And Jennifer, this is exactly where I came from when I said, when people call me, I'm always like, are you trying to say I need help improving my asset management, or are you calling me about fix my maintenance? They are both critical to being able to have a successful delivery and for your organization, but they're not the same.
Yeah.
They're highly complementary.
Yes, excellent. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you to the audience members. We'll see you next week. We've got Mark Knight and Tacoma Zach. I believe you might know the Zachs. They're Canadians
I
also.
know, yeah, the fellow Canadians there.
Yes, you and Jennifer are lovely in the same way. It's great. We love our
Awesome.
Canadian colleagues. And
Thanks so much for the invitation to join
thank
you
you for
today, Mike.
joining us. So we didn't even get to talk about all the books, and but that's okay. We'll have to have you back again. Thanks
Sounds
for
good.
joining
Thank
us.
you. Okay,
Bye,
have a good
everyone.
day. Bye.